Hi, this is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to talk a little bit about 2 Chronicles 20. It is so relevant for today, you'll have troubles believing it. Now, how do we get to 2 Chronicles 20? Let me tell you, there's a couple chapters, a couple books of the Bible that are very hard to get to. There are three of them main ones: 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, and Leviticus. Why are they hard? Because they're so difficult. I mean, they're like, chewing a mouthful of what I used to call like broccoli, and I hated broccoli. And it was so difficult to get through that kind of stuff. I hated the smell and the texture of that kind of thing. Now, some of you love broccoli, so you don't really, resonate with me. But we are in October 26th, of 2022. It's a desperate time frame that I know you're feeling here. Someone's like tagging me here at the same statement. Now, one of the things that you've got to see, sorry, they keep pinging me here. One of the things you got to see is how do we get here? Now, it's a hard chapter to get to because most people don't get there. Now, you've got to go to the planbible.com, planbible.com. Go download Jeff Swanson's. It's a $10 version. Get the King James or New King James version, and you're going to get a Bible that is organized verse by verse. Now, it is one of the most critical verses, setups you'll ever read. You'll never be able to read anything that is as well done as this. He spent 30 years putting it together. It's a good friend of mine. So planbible.com. Now, how do we get to 2 Chronicles? Why is that an important, 2 Chronicles 20? Why is it important? It's so relevant for where we are today. Where are we today? We are in one of the most desperate times. I know as a business, I'm struggling. Without help, we're going to struggle like crazy. Our patients are not showing up in the door because they're fearful. Hey, the world is fearful. It's not buying anything. It's not doing anything. It's stuck. It's stuck in the mud. Now, the cabal loves your fear. And when you break free of that fear, you have won. Free, this is the word free. Okay, when you say free. So freedom. And I think of freedom as a way of understanding where we are going and what's happening to us. Now, let's go into Chronicles or 2 Chronicles 20. Now, I'm not going to do all the verses here. So they're struggling. The Judahites are struggling with Jehoshaphat as their leader. And he is sitting there and he's got so many people around him. And it's an army that's 7 times bigger than he is and has no answers for this thing. So he begins to go in prayer. He's in the assembly. He's sort of talking to the people, but he's in prayer. He's like, aren't you the ruler? Don't you take care of us? Didn't you drive out the people before us? Now, see, we always want to remind God of what he's doing. First, Hebrews 11 verse 1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the promise of things unseen. See, you have to operate your belief, which is your backward glance of everything, so that your faith can get operating inside of the situation. So you look backward at what's happened so that you can look forward at new things. And that's what he's doing. He's going, there's going to be disaster coming upon them with sword, pestilence, famine. He's going, your name is going to be destroyed. How are you going to do this? What are you going to do? Are you going to judge these people? And then God answers back to him on verse 13. He goes, listen, I have taken care of you. Do not be afraid. Don't be discouraged. This vast number of people, the battle is not yours. You see, we think of this battle as ours that we've got to do something about. And here's where he actually does. So he bows his face in prayer. And this is, in essence, it's a fasting. Now, most times we think of like the Daniel fast of 20 days where he fasts eating meat. Or we think about a fasting that Jesus did in the desert of 40 days, or we think of all kinds of different fasts. I believe that this is probably, don't know for sure, but this is probably around, a day or so that he's fasting. So he gets up early in the morning, the next morning. So that's why I kind of think it's that way in verse 20. And he goes together and he goes, let's put the singers in the front line. Now, why this verse is so important to me is back in the 80s, a band called Petra had sung about this. And I never knew where they kind of pulled it out. They were like, put your singers in the front line, let them sing and praise to me, and you will see the salvation of your God and watch your enemies flee. And I remember that one, and it's kind of a light metal kind of the 80s with that too. And so you have to understand why you wouldn't do this. Now, let's kind of move this thing forward. If you're going to put together your army, you're going to put the toughest dudes, your Marines in essence, to storm the beaches, to storm the front, the front lines. You're going to have your second line people, behind them, and third line, so your toughest, your second line would be kind of second toughest, any kind of variation of that. Now you'd have your archers in the background, and then they would fire over the top of them before they got to a particular place. Now they would have flags that would show up, the NESARA, those flags would show up and tell the army what they were about to do. So the king's back there, boop, the flag comes up, go in, the next flag goes up, shoot, the next flag goes up, stop, stop the shooting, different flags that were happening. Jehovah Nissi is our God, our banner that goes in front of us. This is important when we look at this battle. Now, you would never put your singers in the front line. Now, I'm a singer, okay? I've lived my whole life as a singer. And it's been really tough. You're hearing a little bit of a cough in me, but it's almost going away, and I'm losing a lot of my fat. So that's part of the area that we're trying to, get to. Now, why would you do this? I want you to think about this, and I don't mean to be gross or weird with that. Think about a whole bunch of Mick Jaggers in your front line. Why would you do that? Why would you put like these wimpy singers, because singers in the front line are your wimpiest kind of warrior. They wouldn't be warriors. And so they're out in front of this whole line. And instead of archers doing anything, he does the dumbest situation in the history of the world against an army that's way bigger than him. Think about that for a sec. You put your you do the dumbest thing that you could do, but God wanted to do it because he goes, hey man, you ain't doing this battle. I'm taking care of this sucker. I'm doing it for you. And once you see the nature of this battle, they started fighting against each other. And then all they did had to go in and just clean up. They didn't have to do anything. And they took all this, and goes on through the verses here. And they go in and they take down the high places. They're taking all of the, let's see here, I'm trying to read through this as we go along here. They gathered all the plunder for 3 days because there was so much. This is a type of the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. Think about that for a second. The wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And that's about what we're ready to see. We need to have warrior level worship. Now there's a band, one of the first bands that I've ever really seen do this kind of stuff is We the Kingdom. Don't Tread on Me. And I can just hear them in my head. Okay. As a singer, I try not to have too much music in me because it messes up my brain. I can't think with that kind of stuff on because that's all I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of minor keys and major keys. and background vocals and all the other stuff. I'm thinking of the thirds, the fifths, the sevenths, the transitions, all that stuff. I listen to that stuff. So I think differently than most people do when it comes to that stuff. But the reality is they put the singers on the front line. Don't tread on me is a phrase that was utilized by the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War. That battle, didn't happen in July 4th, 1776. That was when they were about ready to lose. That was when they put the Declaration. It wasn't over until years later. Even Washington wasn't even voted into office. Almost majority, massive majority, everyone wanted him, wasn't voted into office until the 1780s. It was later in the 80s before he got into office. Adams was in office from 1796 to 1800. You got a long time frame before this would actually occur. But put your singers in the front line, and don't tread on me is a powerful kind of statement. Guys, you can't stop this, but the Lord can. He is about to do a mighty battle for you. All they've got left is lies. The lies of the media, the lies of the stupid. Every time you see something dumb, I saw that the new idiot prime minister of England, he walks out there. I put this on the Telegram feed. He walks out there with a red notebook. He goes past a car and he's walking, and it's not cut. And suddenly it's a green notebook. CGI. And think about that for a second. How do you get CGI? Because it wasn't happening. Maybe he was doing green light. I don't know, but this has been taken care of. Guys, it's happening. It's almost here. Trust in the Lord, and he will give you the strength to get through this. I promise you it's coming. I know it. I speak it in faith because he did this in Jehoshaphat's time frame. I speak that with the belief of that occurrence. He's going to do this for the future. That's what I say to the world. I say it through you. Thank you so much for listening.